She stood in front of the house that used to feel like hers, a large white mansion in a quiet neighborhood of Austin, Texas. Clean driveway, tall iron gates, perfect windows that reflected nothing of what was happening inside. Emily Carter stood there with 2 heavy bags in her hands. At the gate stood her husband, Michael Carter. His jaw was tight. His voice was sharp and loud. "Just leave, Emily. I'm done. I don't want to see you again." Behind him, slightly to the side, stood his mother, Margaret Carter. Her arms were crossed. Her face carried quiet approval. No sympathy, no hesitation. Emily looked at them both. For a long moment, she said nothing. She did not beg. She did not argue. She did not cry. Emily stood there alone. The silence felt heavier than the shouting. This was the same man she had built from nothing. The same man who once had no direction, no money, no plan. The same man she believed in when no one else did. And now he was the one who threw her out. 10 years earlier, Seattle, Washington. Emily Carter did not grow up with comfort. She grew up in a small, worn-out apartment with her mother and her uncle, Daniel Brooks. Life was never easy. Bills were always late. Food was sometimes limited. And comfort was a luxury she learned to live without. But Emily never complained. She worked. She studied. She pushed forward. Even when it was hard, especially when it was hard, she believed in one simple thing. If she kept going, something would change. At 20, she met Michael. He was different, confident, charming, always talking, always dreaming. They met at a small cafe where she worked part-time. Michael would sit for hours telling her about his plans, big plans. He talked about business, about money, about success, about the future he was going to build. He spoke as if it was already real, as if all of it was just waiting for him. Emily listened. At first, she smiled. Then she started to believe him. 1 year later, he proposed. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't rich, but it was sincere. Emily said yes. When she told her uncle, he looked at her carefully. "He talks a lot," Daniel said quietly. "But talking is not the same as doing." Emily smiled. "I'm not marrying what he is now," she said. "I'm marrying who he will become." Her uncle sighed. "Just make sure," he said. "He never forgets who believed in him first." Emily nodded. She believed. Fully. Completely. They got married in a small ceremony. Nothing expensive, nothing grand, but full of hope. Real hope. The first years were hard. Very hard. Emily got a job at a large company in downtown Seattle. Long hours, strict schedules, constant pressure. Michael worked different jobs. He tried things, quit things, started over again. Money was always tight, sometimes too tight. Emily saved every dollar she could. Whenever she had time, she read about business, about strategy, about management, about how to build something real. She didn't just dream. She prepared. One evening, she sat down with Michael. She placed a notebook on the table. Inside it were pages filled with plans, ideas, calculations, steps. "I think we can build something," she said calmly. Michael leaned forward. For the first time, he wasn't just talking. He was listening. Emily showed him everything. What to do, how to start, where to invest, what risks to avoid. She had saved money. They used that money to start a small construction business. It wasn't easy. It was slow. It was exhausting. But Emily handled everything. The numbers, the clients, the suppliers, the planning. Michael followed her lead, and slowly, things began to change. The business grew. They got more clients, then more projects, then stability. After 3 years, they opened a second location. After 5 years, they hired workers. They were successful. They bought a house, a big one, the same house Emily had just walked away from. At first, their relationship was strong. They supported each other. They laughed. They planned the future together. But time changed things. Or maybe success did. Emily had one deep pain. She couldn't have children. It broke her quietly. She cried when no one was watching. She blamed herself. She carried that weight alone. At first, Michael supported her. But slowly, something in him changed. Michael began to pull away. At first, it was subtle. Late calls, short answers, a distant look in his eyes. He spent more time on his phone, more time outside, less time with her. Emily noticed. Of course she did. She worked all day. Handled most of the business operations. Came home, cooked, cleaned, created comfort, created warmth. Michael's mother visited rarely, but when she did, everything changed. Margaret Carter filled the house with quiet pressure. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her words were enough. Sharp, cold, precise. "I never thought this was the right match," she said one evening at dinner. Emily stayed silent. Margaret continued. "There were better options for you, Michael. Women with families, with status, with future." Emily lowered her eyes. Michael said nothing. Margaret looked directly at Emily. "A family needs children," she said. "A man needs an heir." The words cut deep. Emily felt it, every time, like a wound that never healed. One evening, Michael invited an old friend over, Jason Miller. They had known each other for years. They had dinner together, talked about business, laughed. Everything looked normal. Almost. Later that night, Michael and Jason stepped outside to the veranda. The doors were slightly open. Emily stayed inside, cleaning the table. She wasn't trying to listen. She didn't want to. But their voices carried through the quiet night. Jason laughed softly. "So, what about her?" Michael paused, then answered. "It's nothing serious." Emily froze. Her hands stopped moving. "She's interesting," Michael continued. "Easy to talk to." Jason asked, "And Emily?" Silence. Then Michael said quietly, "She doesn't need to know. We're just friends." In that moment, she realized they were no longer close. They were no longer the same. They were already far apart. Margaret stayed for weeks, and every day she spoke to her son. "You deserve more. You need a real family. You need someone who can give you children." Michael listened, more than before. He didn't argue. He didn't resist. And slowly, he changed even more. One night, Emily decided to speak. She waited for him. The house was quiet. The lights were soft. Hours passed. Then the door opened. Michael walked in, calm, unbothered. Emily stood in the living room, waiting. "Is it true?" she asked. Her voice was steady, too steady. Michael looked at her. He wasn't surprised. He was ready. "Why are you so cold?" she continued. "Why are you never here? Do you not love me anymore?" Silence. Then one more question. "Is there someone else?" Michael exhaled slowly, as if this conversation had already happened in his mind. "I've been thinking about this," he said. His voice was calm, cold. "We can't continue like this." Emily felt her chest tighten. "Our relationship isn't the same," he continued, "and I can't keep waiting." She looked at him, not understanding, or maybe understanding too much. "I want a family," he said. "I want children, and you can't give me that." The words landed heavy, final. "And yes," he added, "there is someone else." Emily's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Not yet. Days passed. They barely spoke, barely saw each other, like strangers living in the same house, until one evening. Michael came home early. Emily was in the living room. He stood in front of her, direct, cold. "I think it's better if you leave," he said. No emotion, no hesitation. "You can take your personal things." A short pause. "But the business stays with me." Emily blinked, not understanding. "That's my business," he continued. "Everything we have, I built it." She packed her things without fully understanding what was happening. Her hands moved. Her mind didn't. Michael opened the gate. "Go," he said coldly, "and don't come back." Neighbors watched from a distance. Quiet, confused. Some whispered, some simply stared. They couldn't understand why a man would treat his wife like that, why he would throw her out. Emily stepped outside. The gate closed behind her. The sound was final, heavy. She stood there for a few minutes, still, silent, trying to understand. But nothing made sense. Nothing felt real. She couldn't stay there forever. So she picked up her bags and walked. Emily didn't sit still. She didn't allow herself to break. Not completely. She started thinking, planning, rebuilding, from zero. Michael thought she had nothing, but he was wrong. She had something far more valuable. Experience, knowledge, discipline, years of it, and she began to use it. She started small, very small. She found a job, worked long hours, saved every dollar, carefully, patiently. She lived simply, spent almost nothing, focused only on one goal, to stand on her own again. Months later, she took the next step. She rented a tiny space in a local market. She bought fruits and vegetables, simple products, basic business. She worked every day, from early morning to late evening, selling, talking, learning her customers, understanding demand. She reinvested everything she earned. Every dollar went back into growth. Slowly. Her business began to grow. More products, better quality, more customers. People returned again and again. They trusted her. They respected her. After 6 months, she opened a larger store, still modest, but stable, real. Emily managed everything herself: accounting, supplies, clients, strategy. Every detail mattered. Every decision was calculated. She woke up early, went to sleep late, every day. It wasn't easy, but she never expected it to be. She knew one thing: no one would build her life for her. Only she could do that. People noticed her, her discipline, her strength, her consistency. Among them was a man, Daniel Hayes. He owned a similar business, experienced, calm, observant. At first, he came for business, advice, conversations, ideas. He helped her with small things, shared insights, gave useful recommendations. Over time, they became friends. He started visiting more often, sometimes to help, sometimes just to see her. He had heard about her work, about her growth, But when he met her, he was surprised. She was more than he expected. Smarter, stronger, more capable. Her knowledge ran deep, deeper than most people in the field. 5 years earlier, Daniel had lost his wife. Since then, he had been alone, focused only on work. He had never met someone like Emily. Not like this. Not with this strength. Not with this quiet determination. He admired her. From the beginning. They supported each other, worked together, talked, shared ideas, built trust, and slowly. Something in Emily's life began to heal. Her business grew, her income increased, her stability returned, and her personal life started to feel alive again. Meanwhile, Michael's life was falling apart. Without Emily, the business began to weaken. He had never truly understood everything, because Emily had handled most of it. The structure, the systems, the strategy. Now he was alone and unprepared. He made mistakes, big ones. He invested money in the wrong places, trusted the wrong decisions, lost control over operations. Money stopped coming back. Problems started growing. The woman he chose moved in with him, but nothing improved. She wasn't interested in him, only in his money. She spent freely, without limits, without care. She didn't work, didn't help, didn't support. She didn't understand business, didn't want to. She spent her time outside, with friends, with distractions. The house changed. Messy, empty, cold. Michael tried to manage everything alone. The business, the house, the pressure, but he couldn't. It was too much. When Margaret arrived again, she noticed immediately. The house was not the same. Unclean, unorganized, no food, no order, no control. She looked at her son and froze. Michael had changed. He had lost weight. His eyes were tired. His face was empty. He looked unhappy. For the first time, she said nothing. Michael's business continued to fall, slowly at first, then faster. He closed one store. He couldn't afford to keep it running. The second one followed. Expenses grew, income disappeared, debts replaced profits. He tried to fix it, tried to recover, but every decision led him deeper into loss. He didn't know what to do anymore. For the first time in years, he had no answers. The woman he chose stayed only as long as the money lasted. When it stopped, she stopped too. She looked at him differently, colder, distant. "This isn't what I signed up for," she said, and she left, without hesitation, without regret, just like he once told Emily to leave. Margaret watched everything, silently, carefully. One evening, she finally spoke. "We were wrong," she said. Her voice was quiet, heavy. "We should never have done that to Emily." Michael didn't respond, because he knew it was too late. He lost everything. The business, the stability, the life he once had, the life Emily had built with him. Nothing remained, no savings, no support, no control. He sold the house, the same house he once forced her to leave, moved into something small, simple, temporary, and, for the first time in years, Michael went back to working just to survive. No plans, no dreams, only reality. Meanwhile, Emily continued to rise. She used her mind, her skills, her experience, everything she had built inside herself. And she built again, stronger, smarter, better. Her business grew, steady, stable, profitable. She expanded, invested wisely, made decisions with clarity, with confidence, with control. And she was not alone. Daniel Hayes stayed by her side, not above her, not ahead of her, with her. He supported her, respected her, helped her, listened to her. They built together, not out of need, but out of choice, out of trust, out of respect. They faced problems together, solved them together, moved forward together, and for the first time in a long time, Emily felt peace, real peace. She didn't forget the past, but it no longer controlled her. It became her strength, her foundation, her proof that she could survive anything, that she could rebuild everything. A person who is disciplined, who works hard, who keeps moving forward, cannot be stopped, not by loss, not by betrayal, not by failure, only by giving up. And Emily never did. Skills cannot be taken away. Experience cannot be erased. What you build inside yourself stays with you, always, waiting for the moment you choose to use it again. Value the people who stand beside you, the ones who believe in you, the ones who help you grow, because not everyone will, and not everyone deserves a place in your life. Every day is a new chance to start again, to build again, to become stronger than before. And sometimes, losing everything is exactly what leads you to everything you truly deserve.